Treatment's important, but you can't treat somebody in the morgue. There's a lethal partnership between the Chinese and the Mexican cartels. They operate in probably almost every city in this country. We have to call it what it is.
Congress, let's go. Step it up.
That's murder, in my opinion.
In February this year, a large-scale active heroin mill was found and dismantled in this apartment building in Queens, New York, right down the road from an elementary school. Millions of dollars of narcotics were confiscated, including 1,000 pills that looked like prescription pills, but were actually laced with deadly fentanyl. Just those pills alone could have killed 1,000 unsuspecting New Yorkers who might have thought they were buying a legitimate painkiller. So to understand exactly where these drugs are coming from and how they get into communities just like this one, we sat down for an in-depth interview with Derek Maltz, the former DEA agent in charge of the Drug Administration's Special Operations Division. And he gives us a show and tell of the flow of drugs, cash and chemicals coming in across the USA and what we can do about it.
We have a record-breaking, unprecedented crisis with deaths from counterfeit pills and from drugs, and that needs to be talked about.
I love this show and tell.
So you always find guns in these locations. Typical heroin mill, the heroin comes in, they put it on the table, they cut the heroin up, and they put the heroin in these little glassine bags, and they put them in the boxes. There's usually 1,000 bags in every box. That's ready to hit the streets. They come up with all these exotic names, and they just stamp the bags. Brilliant, brilliant marketing scheme that got a lot of people addicted.
It's marketing to the kids, isn't it? So this is where they're monitoring?
Yeah, they're monitoring the street. So if law enforcement's coming up, they could dump all the heroin into the tub, in the toilet, and get rid of the evidence before the police actually show up.
They're prepared.
They're prepared, right? And they could shoot you too. I mean, this is like video that I took many years ago, but it still depicts like the levels that these groups go to. This is all part of the crisis.
The drugs have just got stronger.
See how disturbing this is. Hundreds of them come in, and the guy in the front door there is a lookout. Legitimate people live in these buildings, kids are hanging out, and this is all day long. When they don't have the supply, they can't go in. So they're waiting to, replenish the supply. So they hang out on the street, and then you'll see the guy come out and he waves them in. This is an NYU graduate. She bought 10 bags, and this guy's snorting one bag before he leaves. This lady, she goes in, but she leaves her 8-year-old in the car. This guy, he's gonna drive the school bus and pick up the kids after he snorts a couple lines of heroin. And this is the Badlands in Philly. Very similar to the New York scene. People can't live their normal lives. There's a lot of crime. Months later, you go back to the same community and you see these young kids playing basketball. And to me, that was very powerful because those kids are now living a better life in that community because law enforcement did their job of taking these bad guys out of the community. We made a difference in their life. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day. At the age 13, my father on a Saturday night took myself out on a surveillance operation. He sent me into an apartment building by myself in a very, a minority area in Far Rockaway, Long Island. Didn't really fit in well, but I was able to follow the lady up to the 11th floor of the hotel and see the apartment. So I guess in my DNA, it was started at a young age, right? 13, it was kind of unheard of. Then I got on the radio. My call sign was 701 and a half because he was 701. My father pushed me into the DEA field. And to this day, I thank him because I had 28 years of the best career. I would never turn back because it couldn't have been more rewarding and more powerful and more fun. And I met so many great American patriots over the years. So I give him all the credit. The day that I got promoted by the administrator of DEA to be the chief of the New York Task Force and sat in the same office as my father, and by the way, got his Rolex watch that had been engraved Chief 1983 to 1994 because he wouldn't wear the Rolex watch. He kept it in the safe deposit box. But when I got the chief job, he gave me the watch, which I still have, but it's out getting repaired now.
So your father actually gave it to you?
Yeah, he gave it to me that day. So I've been wearing it every day, but it needs a little repair.
Do you still think of yourself as 701 and a half?
No, not really, but it's actually kind of cool because I always look back and I say it's in my DNA. My brother was in the U.S. Air Force.